Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 5 starts now.
A farewell fit for a hero. A sea of blue in Auburn Hills as a fallen state trooper is laid to rest. Ben?
Still sweating in the 90s with what is now the hottest day of 2017. The relief just around the corner.
Mayor Duggan announces a bipartisan push to fix one of the biggest complaints about living in Michigan, auto insurance.
Today is what I believe is the best chance in a generation to finally put our differences aside and get real rate relief for Michigan drivers.
Thanks for being with us for the news at 5. Michigan may be the state to put the world on wheels, but we also pay through the roof for auto insurance, especially for folks living in big cities.
Today, we see a bipartisan proposal to fix that in a big way. Jason Colthorpe live with how they plan to do it. Jason?
Yeah, the big word there that you mentioned, bipartisanship, that's the key here. I mean, introduced by a Republican and co-sponsored by a Republican, of course, including the Speaker of the House. And you have Mayor Duggan here, a Democrat, a huge proponent. And when you look at the people that came together today to talk about this, very diverse for sure. Now, there are a lot of numbers that go with this. We'll get to that. But what they want drivers to remember is just one magic word, and that is choice. The plan claims to protect the excellent coverage drivers have, but lowering the rates on average by 20%.
If we can put $1,000 back in seniors' pockets, if we can cut rates 20%, that's a major improvement.
Michigan drivers average $2,400 a year in insurance, the highest in the U.S. and almost double the national average.
Citizens who were paying anywhere in the ballpark of $3,500 to $5,000 per year for their auto insurance, and these were not individuals with bad driving records. These were good, upstanding citizens that simply could no longer afford their auto insurance.
To lower that means to lower health insurance costs. Instead of unlimited personal injury protection, drivers would be able to choose between $250,000 in coverage or $500,000, which would still be the highest of any state. Some involved with this deal wanted a much lower option than even $250,000.
We have to be honest about what can get passed.
Oakland County Executive Brooks Patterson describes this negotiated deal another way.
It's an insurance ripoff.
Patterson says doing away with the no-fault law would be going against the will of the people who voted to keep it twice.
$500,000 coverage in a catastrophic accident will probably last you about 1 week. We have a system, all right, it is the premier, it's the Cadillac, whatever you want to call it, but the voters knew that, and they voted for it, and that's why they want to keep it. So if 49 other states are floundering, and do we want to join them or do we want them to join us?
Now, Representative Sherry Gay Dagnogo also released a statement today against this plan, basically saying she had hoped and what she plans to do if she can introduce a bill would be to get rid of the systemic racism when it comes to setting in auto insurance rates, especially in Detroit, when they set those asking for things like gender and income and zip code. And it's also important to point out that unlimited benefit is still optional for drivers under this bill. Devin.
Now, but Jason, we have seen efforts before to do something about our high rates, and they have fallen apart. So why are they more hopeful this time around?
Well, I don't know if they are more hopeful. I think this is the latest effort, and they're just, I think the bipartisanship has them hopeful, and the fact that they have negotiated it so far, but they've got to bring senators in on this to the table. And once that negotiation gets finished, who knows what this bill will look like. Obviously, there are opponents to this. That's the first step. Meetings will start, though, next week, Devin.
All right, Jason.
All right, breaking news right now in Bloomfield Township. Sky 4 is over a house fire. Take a look here. This is happening in the area of Long Lake Shore Drive in Middle Belt. The front of the home was fully engulfed when firefighters got there, and smoke was pouring out of the back, and you can see it's still very active. There are no reports of injuries so far. We will keep you posted on this throughout this newscast and on our website, clickondetroit.com. All right, switching gears now to the weather. You can just see the haze hanging in the air from our Windsor sky cam, and record-breaking heat in the last week of September here.
Yeah, been a pretty good run of late summer weather, but the high heat wave finally on its way out of town. Ben, we broke a record today.
We did, not only for the day, but also really for the year. This is the hottest day of 2017 after we've closed the books on summer, believe it or not. We've slipped a degree now to 92. We actually got to 93 to set that record, but look at how much of the state is still sweltering. That's the front, and you can see the relief on the other side of it. In fact, right now, almost a 40-degree difference between Detroit and temperatures in Duluth. 56 is the number that's up there right now. So here's what's going to shape up in the next few days. It's our last humid night tonight. We'll start to feel relief early tomorrow. That cold front comes through in the morning. But as we get into the weekend, not only are we going to get closer to average, but may we be going too far the other direction? We'll check that out in your 7-day forecast in just a few minutes.
All right, Ben. Well, a historic day in Saudi Arabia. The country announced that it would allow women to drive, a change that will take effect in June of next year. Saudi Arabia, a Muslim monarchy with the legal system there largely based on Sharia law. In the past, Saudi officials and clerics have provided numerous explanations for the ban on women drivers. One cleric even memorably claiming with no evidence that driving harmed women's ovaries.
Well, after months of work, crews reached a major milestone today in fixing the Fraser sinkhole. The repair to the collapsed sewer line is done, but as Nick Monticelli reports, there is still a lot of work to do.
Good evening and welcome to the actual sinkhole. For some reference, if you look over there right where those barriers are, that is 15 Mile Road. We are far underneath of where 15 Mile Road actually sits, and back over here, this is the hole. This is where they had to dig out to get to that collapsed interceptor. And the good news, the huge milestone today, is that that thing is finally fixed.
Let it all happen. Let it flow. Let the flow go.
Here's something you won't see every day, a switch to begin the flow of raw sewage. But trust me, it's a good thing. Since December of last year, Macomb County sewage has been flowing through bypass lines on top of 15 Mile Road because the main one collapsed underground. 9 months later, that line is fixed and the sewage is flowing properly.
And we're going to be demobilizing. We have this enormous bypass that we have to demobilize. So we've got all this pipe and the pumps and etc.
So what's next? All of this. 15 Mile Road has to be rebuilt after crews had to dig 65 feet underneath of it to get to that collapsed line. It will definitely be done by Christmas, but maybe even sooner.
We built some things into the contract for the contractor, so he's got some incentives. And if they have good weather and they have incentives, they're going to go as fast as they can go.
There are some other issues to deal with, though. Crews have found problems in other areas.
They're finding some areas where there's been degradation in the pipes.
We also got answers to the lingering questions today. For Macomb County residents, this will cost on average $25 every year for the next 25 years. And what about those homeowners whose homes were either torn down or condemned?
We cut them a check. We paid them more than what the market value was, which actually is in state statute. I think you have to pay 125%. And then we tried to come to an agreement about their personal belongings.
In Fraser, Nick Monticelli, Local 4.
Well, the entire cost of the project is about $70 million. Miller says there will be enough money, though, to pay for the repairs in other locations of the line without charging residents more.
We have learned Vice President Mike Pence will be visiting Metro Detroit tomorrow and Thursday. He'll attend a Michigan GOP dinner tomorrow night in Bloomfield Hills. On Thursday, he'll deliver remarks at American Axle in Auburn Hills. Hurricane Maria has devastated Puerto Rico, prompting what officials are calling now a humanitarian crisis.
The White House announced today President Trump plans to visit Puerto Rico next Tuesday, saying next week is the earliest the president can visit without disrupting recovery operations. Meanwhile, thousands of Puerto Ricans are leaving their devastated homes and seeking refuge on the U.S. mainland. Those staying on the island are struggling to find just the basic things: fresh water, gasoline. They also face a long wait for electricity to be restored.
People talk about how bad it is, but you really don't see it until you see it.
President Trump tweeted overnight, quote, "Because of its broken infrastructure and massive debt, Puerto Rico is in deep trouble. Much of the island was destroyed with billions of dollars owed to Wall Street and the banks, which sadly must be dealt with."
The devastation in Puerto Rico, not the only thing on the president's plate. Today, he also defended his remarks and tweets about NFL players kneeling during the national anthem, and he had more harsh words for North Korea. All of that was on the table at a White House news conference. Blaine Alexander has more from Washington. Blaine.
Well, Devin, today President Trump talked about North Korea and the relief efforts in Puerto Rico, but threatening to overshadow all of that, his controversial comments on the NFL. But today he said that talking about that is just as much a part of his job as anything else. President Trump, while holding a joint news conference with the Prime Minister of Spain, leveling a new threat against North Korea when asked about possible military action.
Not a preferred option, but if we take that option, it will be devastating. I can tell you that. Devastating for North Korea.
But mixed in with talk of terror and foreign policy, the president rejecting criticism that he used his office to divide the nation over NFL players kneeling during the national anthem.
To me, the NFL situation is a very important situation. I've heard that before about was I preoccupied? Not at all. Not at all. I have plenty of time on my hands. All I do is work. And to be honest with you, that's an important function of working. It's called respect for our country.
The president announcing he will visit Puerto Rico next Tuesday, more than a week after it was ravaged by Hurricane Maria, pushing back on criticism that his administration is not doing enough.
I think we've done a really good job. We're continuing to. We are literally unloading on an hourly basis water, food, supplies.
As the president spoke, Republicans on Capitol Hill announcing they are pulling the plug on a bill that may be their last shot at repealing Obamacare.
We don't have the votes.
Earlier, with House members, a frustrated President Trump lashing out at fellow Republicans.
But we are disappointed in certain so-called Republicans.
Republicans who are already moving on to their next challenge, tax reform. And on tax reform, Republicans are expected to reveal a framework of their plan sometime tomorrow. That will be their next major focus here on Capitol Hill. And after the failure of health care, they're hoping for a win on this one. In Washington, Blaine Alexander, Local 4.
All right, Blaine. Ivanka Trump makes a stop in downtown Detroit.
New tonight, how she's rallying business leaders to help make changes in classrooms.
Also, they came from across the country. New here at 5, a hero send-off for a fallen Michigan State Police trooper.
But first, 10 top college basketball coaches arrested overnight in a case that's rocked the top echelon of the sport. We'll have that story next.
New at 6.
The Sterling Heights Fire Department is looking for a woman who saved the life of a 15-year-old boy here at the Country Cabin restaurant.
She did CPR all on her own until 3 police officers from the Sterling Heights Police Department arrived.
Hear more from the fire chief and the 15-year-old boy who she saved.
All right, Coco. Plus, investigators stormed this man's home in Sterling Heights and found child pornography on his computer. Now he's going to prison. His sentence, new at 6.
Federal prosecutors announced 10 arrests today, including coaches at prominent college basketball programs accused of bribery, collusion, and obstruction of justice. After 2 years, undercover federal agents uncovered 2 separate but related schemes targeting student athletes and their families. Sportswear manufacturer Adidas, one of the suspects involved in giving money to the universities.
In exchange for bribes ranging from $13,000 to almost $100,000 each, these coaches allegedly pushed particular managers and advisors on the players and their families. In exchange, the players would agree to commit to playing basketball at 2 colleges that were sponsored by that company.
Second part of the plan, transferred money directly to recruits and their families. Prosecutors say it is just the beginning of an ongoing investigation that could include other universities and more arrests.
A sea of blue today in Auburn Hills as police from across the state and even the country gather to pay their last respects to Trooper Timothy O'Neill.
He stood outside in formation in the sweltering heat to give Trooper O'Neill a send-off fit for a hero.
O'Neill was killed last week in a motorcycle crash on the west side of the state. Our Jason Colthorpe was at today's ceremony.
Trooper Timothy O'Neill laid to rest today at the Apostolic Church in Auburn Hills.
It's a huge loss for our agency.
From above, you can see the law enforcement presence honoring him and his service as a trooper who worked out of Rockford.
Just an outstanding citizen, outstanding trooper, loved by his community in Rockford area, hard worker. and he's one of our motors. You know, that's a pretty elite detail to be on.
A number of police agencies from all over the state coming today, and obviously you see a lot of guys on motorcycles, given Trooper O'Neill was a member of the Motor Carrier Division. Also on hand today, a group of veterans trying to stay in the background.
We ride with respect, and that's everybody that belongs to the Patriot Guard does ride with respect.
They're just making sure this fallen hero gets his due without incident.
We're here to represent and protect the family from any outside intrusion. We're here to honor and respect the family and show our support for them.
We always say that we're a big family. We're a big blue family, and the support from the community, as you said, hand out water and everything like that, but it shows the family aspect of what our job entails.
In Auburn Hills, Jason Colthorpe, Local 4.
All right, Jason. Record-setting heat today.
Would you have ever thought in September, the end of September at that we'd see that?
This house guest has overstayed his welcome. We were trying to get him out the door, and one last record.
It is going to change pretty quickly, though, here, isn't it?
Dramatically, yeah. And once it does, it's going to settle in for a while. So out of the frying pan and into the icebox, really, and you'll see that in the 7-day forecast coming up. But it got hot today. 93 is where we maxed out. That sets the record for the day. It is also our hottest temperature of 2017 so far. And that brings the number of 90-degree days for this month to 3, the same number that we got in June. Not too much of the heat there in July and August, just one 90-degree day between the 2 months, and that was in July. But if you look at 89-degree days, there were plenty of those. In fact, we saw 6 of them this month. Same number that we had in June, so you do the math there, was at 12, 16, 17 days of 89-degree plus temperatures in not only summer, but a little bit of fall to go along with it as well. Right now, we are just off those highs at 92. We've got a wind that's noticeable out there, out of the west-southwest at 10. It's dropped our humidity a little bit. Dew points have come down into the 50s in some spots. It will get a little bit more humid tonight before that humidity finally drops, at least for an extended period of time as we get into tomorrow. And the transition zone right now, you can see it here. There is some activity as far as showers along that front, but by the time it gets here, I doubt we'll see anything. There's just a slight hint that we could see a shower, and that's mainly going to be in our north zone. But you can see how much of the state, not only in the pre-drought, but we still have parts of central Michigan which are now in a moderate drought. That's that tan category. Nothing here in southeast Michigan in our viewing area, but the new drought monitor is going to come out Thursday, and that's likely going to expand because we just don't have a whole lot of rain coming up in the forecast. Here comes the front. It is going to bring the cooler air, not the moisture. So that front will be here by about 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Chillier temperatures settle in not only in the mornings, but also as we get into the, not only the afternoons, but in the morning hours as well. Friday, that little trough is really our only significant chance of rain, and that shot's not good. So it's possible that a lot of us are going to go through 7 days with nothing as far as precipitation goes. 68 tonight for the overnight low. It's going to be one more muggy finish. Then we'll finally get some relief in here. High temperatures tomorrow look a whole lot different than what we've been used to. 79 in Dearborn and Detroit. Mid-70s for highs here as you get close to M59. And even though we may find an 80-degree temperature here and there, I think most of us in the south zone are going to be in the upper 70s tomorrow. And in our west zone, where that front will cross a little bit earlier, temperatures cooler, 74 to 77, the range there. And in our north zone, that's noticeably chillier, especially up in Sanilac County, 71 for some of those highs in our north zone. And temperatures falling to the 60s for highs, but it's those mornings that'll grab your attention. 46 as we wake up on Saturday. Well, it is football Saturday, so you got to get ready for that.
But it's going to be a shock to the system.
There's no doubt about it.
AC's
not easing into it. Yep.
All right, let's check in with Dr. McGeorge.
Concussion, and there's a big benefit to losing weight you probably didn't know about. I'll have those stories ahead in good health. Hank?
And Dr. McGeorge, a big upgrade in your in-flight entertainment, it is on the way, and some disappointing numbers coming in surprisingly for Apple. All that and much more in your consumer headlines.
Things are about to heat up.
I don't give a what they say.
Well, it's 90 degrees out, sir, and we got senior citizens.
Apartment residents hot under the collar.
If they don't like it, they have to move.
Renters too afraid to speak out?
They working on it.
When's it going to be done? You always say it's working on it.
You've got to see what happens next.
A free place.
I don't give a fuck about what them people say.
Defenders, tomorrow at 5.
Some exciting news for anyone who's taking a flight next year. You don't have to put a pause on binge watching.
How about that? And just 1 week away from a congressional hearing, and a major player in the Equifax breach is making a big move. Our Hank Winchester is live in studio with some consumer headlines. Hank, Equifax back in those headlines again.
I don't think Equifax is going to leave the headlines for quite a while, especially with those hearings coming up. Let's get you right to that. We're talking about the role of the CEO at Equifax just 3 weeks after that data breach became public. We're now learning about the management shakeup. The CEO, Richard Smith, announcing his retirement today. He was with the company for about 12 years. He said it is in the best interest to have new leadership for the company moving forward. Equifax still faces an investigation, as Kimberly mentioned, from the FTC, and also a hearing before Congress that could begin on Monday. The opening weekend for Apple's iPhone 8, it didn't go as well as some may have predicted. The device managed a market share of just 0.3%. Now that's compared to the iPhone 7 that grabbed 1% of market share on its first weekend when it debuted. But most industry analysts say it's not a huge concern for Apple, considering competitors aren't stealing iPhone customers away. And a big change the next time you fly. Well, in 2018, Netflix will start partnering with airlines next year to provide them with its mobile streaming technology. The move is part of an effort to get airlines to offer better in-flight Wi-Fi. And the better the Wi-Fi, the more passengers can stream Netflix on planes instead of having to download everything before you get on board. So,
because airplane Wi-Fi is kind of brutal.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
And on a long flight, how many times can you watch those 4 movies?
Exactly.
Yeah, you need an upgrade.
I would trade my Netflix, though, for 2 more inches of seat space, as long as we're on the wish list.
That's not an option just yet, Mr. Skilling.
Not there.
Not like the cookies. That's
That's not bad either. All right, back with more in just a minute.
New at 5:30.
Suffering in silence. Could our dogs and cats be in pain without us realizing it?
It can be at any point in their lives.
How to spot the signs your pet is in pain and the options to treat it.
A groom becomes an unlikely hero just minutes after saying, "I do."
I look over and I see Clay in the water and I think, like, what is he doing?
Knowing just how far back Detroit schools are coming from, can you teach STEM, science, technology, engineering, math?
And 2 girls. Coding is cool and it's good.
Presidential advisor and daughter Ivanka Trump believes so, along with a lot of CEOs.
Next wheel.
First daughter Ivanka Trump makes a stop in Detroit, and she brought some very heavy hitters along with her, all in hopes of pushing STEM education. The first daughter was joined by Dan Gilbert and executives from Amazon, Facebook, Google, GM, and Lockheed Martin.
All here to push computer science and coding in schools. Rod Maloney was there. All those companies are making a commitment as well, Rod.
Yeah, Devin, you and I have been around about, 22 years now in the city of Detroit, and I'm trying to remember the last time that there was a summit like this that had the kind of financial firepower behind it. Heavy-duty executives coming into town pushing this STEM education, because the fact of the matter is they have to. Simply put, our educational system is not turning out students with the technical skills businesses need. So yesterday, President Trump signed an order telling Education Secretary Betsy DeVos of Michigan to steer $200 million a year to STEM education. Today, he sent his daughter and advisor Ivanka to a Detroit STEM summit, where she announced another $100 million promised by the private sector.
But right now, less than half of American schools have even a single computer science course. So we have to do better. We are going to do better. And this is a giant leap forward in that direction.
The real push here is for diversity, more young women and inner-city children targeted for the money. Summit host Dan Gilbert says it's the only surefire way to change cities like Detroit.
This is the answer. I mean, it's just flat out the answer. If you put technology, skills into these urban schools, and they focus on it, and we focus on the teachers, I mean, we're going to come out the other end in a fairly short period of time.
And this is not about distant futures, says Lockheed Martin chairwoman and CEO Marilyn Hewson, who is also an engineer. She says Mars is coming into view in about 5 years.
And so when the first American steps on the red dust of Mars, it's going to be because of computer scientists. And we want to get our youth involved in that. They are at an age now that they can participate in that very important mission going forward.
And yes, you did hear that right. She's talking about being on Mars, human beings putting their feet on Mars by 2023. And so it's a thing where she says it's a space race that we can talk to kids about and give them reason to believe that this kind of education actually has implications in their lives and making the world a better place and moving us forward in a big way. So they're saying that, you know, this is a good start. It's not enough money. The president even said this is really peanuts in terms of what needs to be put into this. So I think we can expect a bigger push as the years go on.
2023, not very far away at all when you're talking about things of this magnitude, Rod. But there is an ongoing debate as to whether or not STEM is for everyone, a STEM education.
Well, here's one of the things that was said in the summit today, which grabbed my attention, and that is this. You have the three reading, writing and arithmetic, right? The 3 R's. Well, they said you got to add computer coding to that, and they say it's because it's now the new baseline skill you have to have. Every kid needs to know the thought process behind it, and so they're saying you don't even need to go to college for this. You can get apprenticeships, do some coding, learn a little bit about it, and you can get a job in coding without a college degree. And they say apprenticeships can get you that, and that can be a real game changer in terms of moving places like Detroit and inner city schools much farther ahead than they are now.
Well, how many jobs don't involve a computer somewhere along the line? It's a pretty short list in this day and age, no doubt about it. All right, Rod. Here.
Gunmen opened fire inside a Detroit home, prompting a manhunt. The shooting happened around midnight inside this house on Coyle Street near 7 Mile. A 22-year-old man was killed. Another man was critically injured. Police believe at least 2 gunmen knocked on the door, walked in, and started shooting. If you have any information on this crime, contact police.
It's Election Day, not here, but Alabama. Alabama Republicans voting to fill Attorney General Jeff Sessions' vacant seat in the Senate.
It's Luther Strange versus Roy Moore. Luther Strange is an establishment-aligned incumbent who has the backing of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. In the past week, both President Trump and Vice President Pence have traveled to Alabama to stump with Strange. Roy Moore is a populist firebrand endorsed by several Trump supporters and former White House officials. Polls close tonight at 7. The winner will face Democrat Doug Jones in the general election.
The head of the U.S. Navy's Pacific Fleet decides to retire after learning he won't be promoted. Admiral Scott Swift made the announcement Monday on the Pacific Fleet's website. His departure comes amid the growing concerns about the safety and the readiness of U.S. ships in the Pacific. Admiral Swift was in charge of the Pacific Fleet during the period this summer when 2 different ship crashes left 17 sailors dead.
After taking a hard hit by Hurricane Irma, the Florida Keys will soon reopen to tourists. The Category 4 storm destroyed much of the islands, but the Keys are working hard to recover quickly. Power and water supplies have been restored along with the reopening of the Key West and Marathon airports. Debris removal continues, but officials on the chain of islands say the Keys will reopen to tourists on October 1st.
We move to Bay City. A swingers party goes wrong after police say a woman tried to run her husband over with a minivan. 28-year-old Amber Shoemaker and her husband were invited to a swingers party by another couple. Witnesses say Shoemaker became jealous and attacked her husband after he went into a room with another woman. Shoemaker is charged with 3 counts of assault with a dangerous weapon. The talk of Bay City tonight.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. Now to good health, a benefit to losing weight you may not have thought about. Also startling new numbers when it comes to teenagers and concussions.
Dr. Matorge is here with those stories, but first, some new insight into preventing senior falls.
Yeah, exactly, Karen and Devin. You know, based on new research and current review of evidence, the U.S. Preventative Services Task Force does not recommend vitamin D or calcium supplements to lower the risk of fractures in men or premenopausal women. Now, they also do not support their use in the average postmenopausal woman. However, women who have a known vitamin D deficiency, a diagnosis of osteoporosis, or are at an increased risk for falls, well, they may benefit, and they should talk with their doctors. So a new University of Michigan study finds nearly 1 in 5 teenagers has had a concussion. The survey involved 13,000 adolescents and found about 19% had been diagnosed with at least 1 concussion, and 5.5% rather, had multiple concussions. Males, older teens, and those who played competitive sports had the highest risk of concussions. Now, finally, there's a hidden benefit to weight loss. That is a significant cost savings at any age. A new study from Johns Hopkins calculated yearly medical costs and lost productivity that were linked to obesity. And as an example, a 50-year-old who goes from being obese to normal weight could save more than $36,000 over his or her lifetime. Even going from obese to overweight can help lower medical costs. So it's about medical costs, lifestyle issues, all kinds of things.
I've lost track of how many things you've connected to obesity for us over the years. I mean, it's expensive to be unhealthy, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. It's a devastating epidemic, and the best we can do to stem this, the better off we'll be.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Doc.
Well, for fans, it's been a 6-month wait, but finally new episodes of NBC's hit drama This Is Us get underway about 3.5 hours from now. If you're
There's the countdown clock.
not to get too particular about it, but This Is Us has, of course, captivated viewers since episode 1 and now the second season premiere on the way tonight.
I have a date with my husband
Do
to
you?
watch
Oh,
it tonight.
great.
Yeah, the season finale back in the spring left viewers with a lot of questions, some of which may be answered tonight.
There was nothing to decide the moment we saw you.
You knew.
Fans had a similar reaction to This Is Us in its first season. Tonight, the story of the Pearson family continues.
I don't know if you could ever truly believe what you read about what season 2 will be. I can tell you that the first episode, the opening episode, will hit you right in the gut.
The new season picks up right after Jack and Rebecca's separation. But there's also another major clue dropped about Jack's eventual passing, which was teased last season.
I think that's something that a lot of people worry about with Jack. When we see Jack's death, does that mean that Milo the actor goes away? It doesn't mean that at all. It's just, that's a chapter.
Other chapters this season include an adoption storyline for Randall and Beth.
Randall is gung-ho, as he usually is about most things that he sets his mind to, and Beth has her doubts.
Meanwhile, Kate and Toby have moved in together, but Kevin's chance to do a major movie threatens his rekindled romance with Sophie.
That's a very similar situation to exactly what happened in the past to sort of split them up, so it's a lot to ask of her.
Just the start of the new season's twists and turns.
I read these scripts and I know what to expect, but I'm still sort of caught off guard by how emotionally invested I am in these characters.
Some great characters. Once again, the season premiere of This Is Us airs tonight at 9, right after The Voice here on Local 4.
Really rare animal for a network series to be a hit with the critics as well as the fans the way that this one has been.
Really good writing.
Yeah.
Well, bees literally invade a house.
New here at 5:30, why it wasn't even safe to go inside, and the incredible thing the homeowners found after they got them out.
Also, my special All for Pets report. Is your pet slowing down in old age, or are they actually suffering? We will show you how to spot the telltale signs.
But first, a security camera catches a startling crime right in the middle of Hurricane Harvey. Next.
Coming this new at 6.
Well, nobody can put a gun to your head and steal your house from you and put it on their back and walk away.
These were people who unfortunately really thought that these were going to be their homes.
But they caught this deed theft ring. We'll have reaction.
Plus, the annual numbers are out on sexually transmitted diseases in America. Dr. McGeorge explains why there's good news and bad news for Michigan and locally.
Surveillance video captures several people looting a beauty supply store in Houston in the wake of Hurricane Harvey. You see here an SUV pulls up to the store during the night hours. They force their way in. Several unrelated groups actually completely raid the store, helping themselves to the merchandise. Police still working to identify these suspects, but they've got the video. The crimes occurred during a natural disaster, so the penalty range is at what you would call an enhanced level.
There are four-legged friends, members of our family, but our dogs and cats could be in pain without us really realizing it. A Canton veterinarian who specializes in pain says pet owners should ask their vets about pain, know the signs, and be educated on the ways to treat it.
Ace struggles to walk, his back legs paralyzed. His owner uses a harness to help him get into Arbor Point Veterinary Hospital.
And this is a result of a ruptured disc.
And he would grimace and bark and growl. He was in a lot of pain.
The video of the 8-year-old Rottweiler taken more than a month ago.
Oh, it was awful to watch. It really was. My wife would be just teared up. my aunt, she thought we're going to have to put him down. That's what we all thought.
Instead, they brought Ace to Dr. Michael Petty for acupuncture. He was walking again after his 5th treatment.
It's a miracle.
I wish I could say that every single case turned out this way, but it's medicine and they don't all respond.
Dr. Petty says pets can be in pain at any age. According to the International Veterinary Academy of Pain Management, signs of pain in dogs include decreased appetite, no longer wanting to go for walks or car rides, refusal to move, growling, howling, or whimpering. For cats, it's no longer using a litter box, reluctance to jump on surfaces, hiding, hissing or spitting, and excessive grooming.
If you have a breed that you know is prone to some particular issue, then that might be something you might want to ask your vet to screen for.
Surgical pain, arthritis, cancer, there are many reasons for pain. A pain exam with x-rays can help diagnose the problem, and there are options to treat pain, including medications, rehabilitation therapy, and acupuncture.
It depends on how far you want to go, what works. We try the easy stuff first, the inexpensive stuff first, and if we need to, we keep getting more and more complex with our treatments.
Lucy is receiving laser therapy to treat her arthritis. Dr. Petty started using it and says it can increase circulation, reduce inflammation, and speed healing. And don't wait if you suspect your pet is suffering.
Too often I see clients that have brought their animals into me when it becomes a problem for them, not when it's a problem for their pet. In other words, the dog's maybe been suffering for a while and nothing's been done about it until they have to pick the dog up to get it up the stairs. The dog will no longer walk across the floor. And that's not to blame the pet owners, it's really lack of education. They haven't been told properly how to recognize signs of pain.
Education is key, and as you see, there are a lot of options. This is Animal Pain Awareness Month, and there are many more symptoms of pet pain. So we put Dr. Petty's full list online. Head to clickondetroit.com/pets.